Stephanie and Daniel are young and in love.
He wasn't shy about his attraction to her, his love for her, and I don't think that she was shy about her feelings about him.
They long to create a perfect life together.
They immediately clicked. It seemed natural.
But fate has other plans in mind.
I can't support us forever on a teacher's salary.
I know.
She had kind of put their lives on hold for him, and he wasn't delivering.
Hey, I'm sorry.
Congratulations. You seem like an excellent father.
When hopes and dreams go unfulfilled, anything can happen.
The bed, the floor, areas of the wall had blood spatter on it.
Love may be blind and marriage bliss, but divorce is murder. It's springtime in Sugar Land, Texas, and former college student Stephanie Kirkpatrick is back home.
Stephanie had just recently graduated, and she had been back in the Houston area for about 10 months or so. She had just recently gotten out of a relatively short-term relationship.
I have to go home. You understand? I have to go home, please.
I thought Sugarland was home.
She was gorgeous. Oh, she was beautiful. I mean, there wasn't a guy around who didn't have a crush on her at some point in their lives.
How are you?
I need a man is how I am. I wish I could tap these 3 times and let the man of my dreams appear.
She was lamenting the state of her love life.
You know what?
What?
I was like, all right, fine. I'll just go ahead and call somebody.
No, shh.
No.
Hey, shh.
On the other end of the line is David's friend, 24-year-old Daniel Polite.
David knew Dan at college. He was very slender, kind of pointed features, clean-shaven. I thought he was good-looking, very much so.
David, what's up?
I said, hey, I've got my good friend here, Stephanie, and she's looking to meet somebody, so I just thought of you, so here you go.
Hello?
Stephanie? Hey.
Dan?
I was great friends with the both of them and thought that they could do well together.
Yeah, I'd like that.
David's assumptions are right.
We went to go get pizza, and the chemistry was there. They immediately clicked.
Okay, I've got another one for you. How do you know if you're in love?
We give that how?
Because someone steals a piece of your heart.
He had a good sense of humor. He liked making people laugh.
Okay, I think that deserves another drink.
We will get them.
Stephanie had kind of a magnetism to her personality that drew everyone.
David was telling me you act and sing.
Oh, yeah, but just local musical theater.
Stephanie was in her first play when she was 4. And her first musical when she was 7. She was one of those people that had that kind of presence when she was on stage.
Well, I'd love to see you in something sometime.
Yeah, I'd like that.
They immediately just kind of hit the ground running, and it seemed natural.
It isn't long before Daniel and Stephanie start dating.
Okay, I gotta go.
They spent every waking moment that they could together because they just really enjoyed each other.
And spending more time together means sharing their pastimes.
Dan was a big gamer, and when Stephanie and Dan started dating, she got into it as well.
Dan would occasionally assist with running the concession booth or the ticket booth for the theater where Stephanie was performing. He wanted to spend a lot of time with her. If it was important to her, then it was important to him.
Welcome home, Alpha 29. You are cleared to dock Mobile, Alabama.
Unfortunately, time together can be a hard thing to come by.
Daniel was an air traffic controller for boats. They tell the ships where to go, when to go.
He would work day shift for a week, and then he would rotate to night shift.
I just want to wish you good night.
Good night.
That was very difficult for them. It was difficult for Stephanie because she'd be by herself at night.
The job is also difficult for Daniel, sometimes painfully so.
He had digestive issues, and when he was very, very stressed, he would become very ill, and he had flare-ups. It was hard to, I think, sit at his desk for long periods of time.
Stephanie's teaching job is no less demanding, but is much more rewarding.
Stephanie wanted to go into special education. There was no question in her mind.
She wanted to help the children that needed the most help, and so that got her into working with autistic children.
There was one boy in particular.
Jake. Jake. Jake.
Within a couple of years, he made huge improvements.
Good. Good job, Jake. That's really good.
I know that Stephanie was very proud of the progress he had made.
Good job.
It's a perfect job for Stephanie. She loves teaching, and she loves children.
Stephanie wanted kids so badly. She was obsessed about it. She really, really wanted that.
You've got me all to yourself.
But having children isn't all Stephanie wants.
Stephanie always wanted to get married, and that was kind of the next natural step.
How long have you been there?
Not long enough.
What do you think? Honestly, just tell me the truth.
I think I'm the luckiest man alive.
He wasn't shy about his attraction to her, his love for her, and I don't think that she was shy about her feelings about him.
And so they marry on December 11th, 2011.
She was thrilled. She was so happy. It was everything she wanted. Their wedding, it was like a fairy tale, honestly. Perfect dress, perfect venue, perfect food, perfect DJ, perfect cake, perfect everything.
3 months after they exchange I-do's, the couple buys a house.
Dan and Stephanie had been living in an apartment. They found a place that they really liked that fit their budget that was in Missouri City, Texas. And Dan's parents did offer to make some of the mortgage payments over the first few years while they were still getting set up financially. Dan and Stephanie loved their house. It was the first thing they'd ever really owned together.
But Missouri City's newest, happiest homeowners are about to encounter their first bump in the road.
Dan was not happy with his job. I think that he felt there wasn't enough money, and he was very, very worried about having kids. I don't think he thought that they were financially prepared.
Dan decided that he was going to, at the end of summer, was going to quit his job and go back to school full-time for an engineering degree.
Hey.
Hey.
Are you thinking about going back to school?
Engineering is a very prestigious line of work, and there's a lot of work out there for engineers.
Just 2 years.
It was going to put at least a 2.5, possibly even 3-year delay on her ability to start a family.
And the pay after you graduate is enough to support a family.
Just 2 years.
Just. I'll make you proud of me yet, Mrs. Polite.
His parents had offered to pay for the tuition and had offered to help with their expenses to make up for the loss of his salary while he was going back to school.
Easier said than done.
Dan struggled his first semester back. He'd been out of school for a number of years, and some of the practical skills of going to school had kind of eroded with time.
And playing catch-up is difficult.
Some of his professors were apparently not accommodating to the fact that he couldn't sit for long lengths of time, or that he would need extra time on certain assignments because of this condition that he has.
Psychotherapist Stacy Kaiser and forensic psychologist Brian Russell are concerned about the young couple.
One of the most important things in a relationship is to have shared values and goals. And when I look at the situation between Stephanie and Daniel and their careers, they seem to be very far apart. Stephanie is settled, she knows what she wants to do, she's doing it. Daniel's still trying to figure this out. That inability to have shared values can cause arguments, it can create distance between them, it can make them become a couple who doesn't even want to spend time together.
Sometimes people find another reason to go back to school and stay in school as a means of sort of putting off having to grow up and be a working man, working husband, support a family. Maybe this new career in engineering is going to be the thing, but it suggests to me, at least potentially, that he may just not be ready for that.
So this is a really critical time for Stephanie and Daniel.
By the end of 2013, Daniel's grades are in, and it's not good.
Dan thought that he could swim and jumped into the deep end and then realized that he couldn't.
What's going on, Dan?
Look, it's gonna be fine. I'm still a little rusty. I'll do better, I promise.
We've given up so much for this.
Yeah, I know.
She felt that she had kind of put their lives on hold for him and for his career, and he wasn't delivering.
Look, I'll do better. Cross my heart.
She felt a betrayal.
So do Daniel's parents, who were picking up the tab.
Dan's family is very successful, and Dan felt a lot of pressure from the success that he saw his family achieve.
Hey, Dad. Yeah. What? No, Dad. No, just give me another semester and I'll show you. Dad, you can't do that, please.
They weren't happy with the way that he was doing in school.
You're not fine.
Dan's parents were going to rescind their financial support.
I can't support us forever on a teacher's salary.
I know.
They have a mortgage, they've got a couple of cars, and he's not working. Money is a source of stress in a lot of marriages, and it certainly was a stress in this one as well.
It made things very tense between them.
It's the first marital challenge for the Polites, with more to come.
It was time for him to make sacrifices for her.
That speaks to the kind of mental state that he must have been in.
Two years into their marriage, Stephanie and Daniel Polite face some major concerns. While Stephanie thrives as a teacher for special needs kids, Daniel struggles through his engineering degree. And when his parents stop helping out, this young couple's financial future becomes a lot less certain. With house payments and Daniel's tuition to cover, they've got their work cut out for them.
They got into some financial trouble. Money was always very tight for them, and it was difficult.
Dan and Stephanie's relationship was fraying.
Well, my hair will just have to wait, just like everything else these days.
There were points where Stephanie told us she couldn't afford a haircut because money was so tight.
Hey, why don't we go get some pizza? Cheer ourselves up.
With what money?
Their ability to do much of anything was greatly impacted by their newfound financial hardship. Dan felt that he wasn't doing his part and that he was disappointing her.
But there is a small light at the end of the tunnel, at least for Stephanie.
One of the things that Stephanie did for school was to manage a program that is intended to teach children tolerance and acceptance for others.
Stephanie was nominated for an award for that. She was so excited, but I think she was even more excited that the program that she implemented was working and her children were so happy and thriving. It was wonderful.
But it isn't enough.
Stephanie was always sort of warring with herself on whether she wanted to go ahead and start a family and have kids. Dan was struggling with being successful and having a career and having a family.
I just don't feel ready.
When, Dan? When are you gonna be ready?
Sometimes I don't know what you want more from me, kids or husband.
I thought I could have both.
It seemed like they just weren't on the same page.
Listen, maybe you could get a part-time job.
A part-time job? You want me to get a part-time job? Steph, doing what? Doing what, Steph?
I told him that I'd be happy to try to help him get a job back at the company that we were working for, but I think that offer almost sounded like defeat to him.
He found it all kind of unmanageable.
To escape the arguments, Daniel turns to an old hobby.
Dan was a gun enthusiast. I was actually with him when he bought his first gun. It was a 9mm.
Of course, they're careful about safety.
They had a gun safe.
That was for upstairs.
Okay.
But I believe they kept one loaded and nearby.
I became a police officer when Stephanie was about 2, so she was certainly accustomed to seeing me carrying a pistol. She understood how to handle them safely, and she was not frightened of them.
What does make her uncomfortable is the cost of it all.
Are those new?
Brand spanking.
The most expensive gun that I remember him buying was between $1,200 and $1,500. That's a mortgage payment. That's 2 car payments.
When I am looking at Daniel at this point, I am seeing somebody who is on a selfish and actually destructive path. They've reached the point now where the money is tight, he isn't bringing any in, and rather than do the responsible thing, he's rebelling.
He really seems to be behaving like an overindulged child. He seems to be acting very immature, very impulsively, not respecting the fact that Stephanie is really strained to support the couple financially by herself. He doesn't seem to be distinguishing between needs and wants. He seems to be taking advantage of her, and I don't think a lot of wives like the idea of a husband who takes advantage of them. It looks to me like a component of Daniel's personality is a defensive strategy where he is running away from this. And not only is he cutting back on expenses and contributing financially to the family, he's putting the family further into debt. He's making more unnecessary purchases. He is in denial, apparently, about the fact that they've got a financial crisis. If not denial, then he just doesn't care. And that is actually a very immature defensive or coping strategy.
When people behave in ways that don't make sense, there's usually some underlying reason. And I look at Daniel and I think that there's a possibility that he really is afraid of being a father, or maybe doesn't even want to be a father. And so part of what he's doing is, instead of facing those feelings and dealing with them, he is behaving in a way that's going to keep him from having kids and possibly even a wife.
As time goes on, Daniel's indulgences seem to never end.
The car was pretty important to him. It was one of the first kind of big purchases he made after he graduated from college. It was probably an outsized part of their monthly income, especially when they went down to a single income.
You know, I was thinking, do we really need this car?
Come on, it's my baby.
Your baby?
Stephanie's hope was that they would trade in the sports car for something a little more family-friendly.
Oh, I'm sorry. Look, it's not what I meant, okay? Hey, I'm sorry.
Congratulations. You make an excellent father.
It could save them enough every month that it would make a difference.
Daniel is not keen on the idea of getting rid of his sports car.
And as the arguments worsen, the question is, how far will they go to get what they want?
Dan's secrets were very poisonous to the relationship.
Everything's fine.
She was pulling away from him.
Steph! Steph!
And I think that that scared him.
Stephanie and Daniel Polite's marriage is on the rocks. As the single breadwinner for the household, Stephanie pays the bills, while Daniel focuses on his expensive hobbies.
The atmosphere between them at this point was very, very different.
Aren't you drinking a little too much?
I could ask you the same thing.
Drinking exacerbated his stomach problems. And I think that that speaks to the kind of mental and emotional state that he must have been in.
I was worried about Stephanie's mental state as a direct response to Dan's behavior. And I think that that was a huge source of stress on her.
She would binge drink a little bit. And the people who were friends with her knew that that was kind of strange.
Stephanie had been dealing with depression from at least the age of 16. Depression is something that you cure, and I think a lot of things can kind of bring that back to the surface.
This isn't how they imagined living happily ever after.
Dan spent a lot of time playing video games, and I don't know how much time they spent together as a couple.
Stephanie was, in many ways, herself. She did the same things that she enjoyed doing. She continued to perform in shows.
But the rest of the time, she's stuck at home.
She wasn't allowed to go socialize with her cast, go out to late dinner after rehearsal or anything like that. I found that very disturbing. We were used to her being very bubbly, very social, and for her to kind of pull a 180 was very strange, very strange. They would drink very hard and avoid each other and avoid any kind of serious conversation, and they just were unusual.
Leading Stephanie to make a heartbreaking realization. She's not sure she even wants to have kids with Daniel anymore.
It was very hard for her, very hard. That was one of the things she wanted more than anything in the world.
Some believe Stephanie is going through more than she'd like to admit.
Her coworkers would occasionally see bruises on her that would raise questions, and Stephanie would make excuses.
Walked into a door. Such a klutz. I'll see you at lunch.
And she's not the only one making excuses.
Stephanie came home one afternoon and found Dan passed out on the couch.
Dan, wake up! How much school have you missed?
2 weeks.
Dan.
He's very actively and deliberately not going to class because he doesn't want to.
Look, it's hard, okay? You have no idea the amount of pressure that I'm under.
Pressure that you're under? We had a deal.
Dan's secrets were very poisonous to the relationship. I think he felt extraordinarily guilty and ashamed.
What's going on? Are you depressed?
Look, I'm not depressed, okay? I'm fine. Everything's fine.
Dan always seemed to try to downplay the problems that they were experiencing as a couple. She told me flat out, yes, I do think that he suffered from depression, but I can't get him to go see anybody about it.
From anyone's point of view, this is not a quality relationship. We're looking at a guy who is controlling, who has abusive tendencies, who's drinking large quantities of alcohol, and who is lying. And so it does make sense that Stephanie would be at a point in her life where she would say, do I really want to be with this guy?
And at the same time, you've got Daniel, who has got to be feeling pulled to be something that he's not ready to be. I think it'll be very difficult for Stephanie and Daniel at this point in their lives to succeed as a couple, because it seems like there is some fundamental difference in the way in which each of them approaches life.
Then Dan finally makes his own heartbreaking decision.
Dan had finally decided that he would give up his car.
It's the transition from young 20-something with disposable income to responsible provider husband.
But Dan's efforts might be too little, too late.
Hey, look at me.
She wasn't sure if they were going to stay together.
Hello?
I'm doing it. I'm selling the car. My car.
It hardly puts a dent in things now, Dan. I mean, you should have done that a long time ago.
I'm trying, Steph. Steph!
She was pulling away from him.
Steph! Steph!
And I think that scared him.
Hey. Look at me.
It's only the beginning of a terrifying ride.
There was blood everywhere.
Can't describe the feeling. Just pure shock.
After just over 2 years of marriage, Stephanie and Daniel Polite are on the verge of breaking up, caused by money tensions and disagreements over starting a family. And Stephanie's disappointments don't end there.
She found out that she was the runner-up for the award that she had been nominated for. And she was disappointed that she didn't win.
She takes the news hard.
I thought we had an arrangement.
Well, I made an amendment.
That night, when Dan got home, she had already begun drinking, and they both agreed that they would cut back on their drinking and only drink on weekends.
I'm sorry I didn't win that award. Just another missed opportunity for Miss Stephanie Polite.
It's all right. I'll try again next year.
Dan, all we do is try. I mean, how long are we gonna try for? We're trying for an award, trying for family, trying for a marriage. Just...
I think you had too much to drink.
You wanna know what I think? I think I've made a lot of big mistakes.
You're drunk, Steph.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. And I could really use some nachos.
All right, babe. I'll make some nachos.
Hours later, a frantic 911 call is made.
911, Missouri, where is your emergency?
Came in as a unknown medical call. When I received the phone call, I was at my residence, asleep in bed, and I was informed by our dispatch center that we had had a report of a victim throwing up blood there in Missouri City. This was your just typical suburban neighborhood at a very low crime rate.
But what police find is not typical at all.
There was blood everywhere. The bed, the floor, areas of the wall had blood spatter on it. This is not somebody throwing up bloods. This person's been shot in the head. It was a pretty gruesome scene.
And there's only one person left to tell the tale.
I went to talk to the person that was secured in the back of the patrol car. I'd learned his name was Daniel Polite and that he was the husband of the victim.
Can you tell me anything about tonight? Anything at all?
Dan didn't really understand exactly what had happened.
911 actually asked Daniel Polite, where is she bleeding from? And he said she's just throwing it up.
She's throwing up blood, she's sick. But there was never any mention that she had been shot.
You don't remember?
No, sir.
He basically didn't tell me anything that happened.
Am I being charged with anything?
I'd recommend you get a lawyer. Yes.
Daniel was eventually transported from the scene to the Fort Bend County Jail. He was charged with the homicide.
Stephanie's friends and family are given the terrible news.
2 officers came to my house about 4:30 in the morning on March the 12th to notify me of Stephanie's death. Hearing something like that your child is dead, I can tell you that the first thing I felt was that I couldn't breathe.
Honestly, my first reaction was, this must be some sort of joke. Can't describe the feeling. It's just pure shock, pure just disbelief.
They got a phone call from the detective, and he told me, he was like, I just want to let you know, Dan's in custody, and he's gonna be charged. To find out that he is suspected in being responsible for her death is a whole other loss. It was undoubtedly the worst day of my life.
Police search the residence.
There were empty liquor and beer bottles throughout the home. In a closet, in shoes.
Somebody in the residence had a serious drinking problem.
The autopsy revealed 0.219 for her blood alcohol concentration, which is almost 3 times the legal limit in the state of Texas.
The gun was laying there on the ground next to the wall. There was blood all over the gun. The gun had been thrown with some force against the sheetrock wall because there was actually an imprint of the weapon in the sheetrock that you could clearly see.
There was only 1 shell casing in the gun when we recovered it.
1 single round is often a telltale sign of suicide.
The fact that there was 1 bullet in the gun, could it been suicide? Maybe.
Meanwhile, Daniel, who has no prior criminal history, is released.
Daniel was able to make bond the very next day after he was charged with the homicide.
His family hired an attorney willing to act as a surety on the bond, which essentially meant that the family didn't have to put up any money in order to bond Dan out.
There was no court-ordered monitor, ankle bracelet, or anything like that. He was released on his own recognizance, and we had no reason to actually follow him or keep track of him.
A week after her death, Stephanie's funeral attracts hundreds.
I don't know how you describe the funeral of your child. It's just one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
But one person whose role in Stephanie's death is still uncertain is conspicuous by his absence.
Dan did not attend the funeral. We had made provisions for that, primarily because we didn't want trouble. If my brothers and my son and my nephews had seen him, it would not have been a good thing.
There is strong reason to suspect that Daniel was the cause of Stephanie's death. You can understand why then they don't want him at the service. Daniel then has to decide, do I defy the family and say, look, I'm the husband and I've got a right to be here, I'm gonna be here if I want to? Or do I acquiesce to the family's request because I'm trying to be respectful of them, maybe because I actually do feel guilty that I caused this?
He, at this point, has got to know, at a bare minimum, that there is some suspicion around him when it comes to her family and friends. And he may not want to either evoke pain for them or end up with some sort of attack that is placed on him. I don't really see him as the respectful type. My guess is he was more worried about the impact that it would have on him if he decided to show up.
It's all starting to come back.
2 months after Stephanie's death, Daniel's memory seems to have recovered.
And she'd been so upset about not winning the award she was nominated for.
It was the Sunday of the Memorial Day weekend. Dan called me to talk to me.
I believe Dan wanted to sort of lay out his story and perhaps convince Neil that this was all just a terrible accident.
She'd been drinking so much.
She was really intoxicated. He told her he was going to cook a special meal for her supper.
So I went to the store to get the stuff, and when I got back, I could hear some noise in the bedroom. You know, drawers, opening, shuffling. So I went to go make sure she was okay.
Stephanie had suffered quite a bit with self-image issues and with depression.
Steph, what are you doing?
I didn't win that award.
It's okay, you win next year.
Don't sugarcoat this, okay? I was, and that's it.
Steph, give me the gun.
No.
It's gonna be fine.
No.
Just give me the gun. Just give me the gun.
No.
I tried to get the gun from her as fast as I could. Give me the gun. I started struggling. Please, stop. And then the gun went off.
He called 911.
911, Missouri City, where is your emergency?
My wife is drowning in her own blood. She's not doing well.
Is she conscious or no?
No.
I need you to get her on the floor.
The 911 dispatcher then instructs Daniel to start administering CPR.
Okay, I need you to put the heel of your hand on top of your other hand between the breastbone.
He tried to do CPR, and shortly after that, the police officer arrived at his house.
For now, I'm gonna get you in the front of the camera, okay?
There were plenty of opportunities for him to speak up and say, oh, she had a gun in her hand and I tried to get it away from her. But that never happened in that entire time.
That is not all that unbelievable that somebody in a state of shock may not realize exactly what had happened. Some people interpreted that as him being evasive or lying, but Dan had what's called dissociative amnesia. That's why he couldn't remember.
Until Daniel's memory is challenged by a very tangible piece of evidence.
I'm gonna get you to sit in the car.
Somebody didn't want us to see it.
It was just one of the vilest things I'd ever heard in my life.
"28 months into their rocky marriage, Stephanie Polite is dead from a bullet her husband Daniel insists was accidentally discharged in an attempted suicide. But those closest to Stephanie don't buy the suicide angle.
I tried to think about it that way, that might have been the case, and it didn't seem right. It wasn't her.
Nor does the evidence back it up.
The bullet, according to the autopsy, entered the right back portion of her head, and being able to reach behind you at a distance that the autopsy showed is almost physically impossible.
Even so, lacking any real hard evidence, the case inches forward.
It takes a number of weeks, if not months, for us to be able to conclude what we believe happened in the room.
We took Stephanie's phone to the forensic lab and looked through, seemed like thousands of data entries. This one photo had been deleted from the phone, but it had uploaded to the cloud, and unbeknownst to the person that took it, it was still out there for us to get. The photo is simply Stephanie lying in the bed, peacefully sleeping.
Which was consistent with what her friends said would happen when she would drink.
The picture allows police to form a timeline leading to Stephanie's death.
Once we opened up this one photo, we noted that the date and timestamp was actually just minutes before the 911 call. The photo does not go well with his story that he tried to tell. I find it peculiar that someone would stand there and take a photo of somebody sleeping in bed peacefully, and then moments later, there's a 911 call after someone's been shot in the head. The fact that the photo was deleted indicated to us that somebody didn't want us to see it.
And that somebody had something very sinister in mind.
Dan came in, stood with the gun about 12 to 15 inches away from her head, and fired a shot into the back of her head while she was asleep. The bullet traveled through her head, through her brain, and came to rest in her left cheek area.
That cheek has to be at least against something that kind of stops the bullet from exiting. And it doesn't have to be something hard. I mean, it can be something like your face against a pillow.
It appeared that the trigger had been pulled 3 or 4 more times since it was fired. It caused the cylinder to rotate.
That told us that weapon had to be in somebody else's hand. The weapon had been thrown with such force against the sheetrock that when it hit, you could actually see the outline of the weapon.
Stephanie was not in a condition that she could have picked that revolver up and thrown it, and there was only one other person in the house.
This was no suicide attempt or accident.
There was blood in a bathroom, there was blood in the kitchen sink, and that was just from him walking throughout the house.
There's so much that occurs before he even calls 911.
Very bizarre behavior in a situation where you believe your wife is in medical distress.
Now that they know this information, police revisit their interactions with Dan from the night in question.
His behavior would range between sobbing to screaming to laughing.
At one point, he screamed out, and some people would want to suggest he was talking about his wife.
Police also recall Dan's story about Stephanie's death.
While Dan was out on bond, he reached out to Neil Kirkpatrick.
It's all starting to come back.
And Neil was pretty smart and recorded the phone call, which turned out to be very helpful because it was essentially like a police interview.
I got him to tell the story probably about 4 different times. He would change the details a little bit every time he said it.
There would always be some deviation in his story that led us to believe that it was all lies. He continued to bring up over and over again that he was making nachos. He was making her very favorite meal that night, so how on earth could he have been a person that killed her?
Nonsense. His whole story was nonsense.
Nearly 3 months after Stephanie's murder, Daniel Polite is indicted. 1 year later, other secrets are uncovered in court.
During the trial, it came to light that there was another woman in Dan's life.
We didn't know the extent of that relationship at the time, and we became more aware of it after the trial began.
He had been messaging her and flirting with her the night that he killed Stephanie. I couldn't believe it. It was just one of the vilest things I'd ever heard in my life.
2.5 years after her death, and after only 90 minutes of jury deliberation, Daniel Polite is found guilty of Stephanie's murder and sentenced to 85 years in jail.
A number like 85 is essentially a life sentence.
It was just such a huge sigh of relief from so many people that had waited for so long to see justice done, to see it carried out.
Oh yeah, there's no question that I was satisfied with the verdict.
Still, many are left with only the vaguest idea as to why Daniel did it.
To get inside the mind of Daniel Polite is a difficult thing.
I think he did it because she was going to leave him.
And he was not able to deal with that. You know, if I can't have you, nobody's going to have you.
Perhaps he had another love interest, and this was his way of being able to pursue that.
I do believe that Stephanie insisting that he sell his car had something to do with it.
Congratulations. You make an excellent father.
Knowing how he felt about that car, I think he was furious.
We'll probably never know exactly what was going on with Dan that night.
This almost has to look like adult, murderous, violent temper tantrum, where he saw the gravy train ending, that she's not gonna support him anymore. He's not gonna be able to just play video games and drink. He's gonna have to actually get a job because she won't support him, his parents won't support him.
I think he realized that if he didn't get rid of her, his life was about to come to tremendous change. And so the answer was to kill her. Daniel told a lot of lies about Stephanie, making her look like she was a drunk, she may have been depressed.
I hate it that Stephanie gets victimized once by being murdered, and then she gets victimized again by being impugned in these ways throughout the defense.
Regardless of motive, Stephanie's memory will carry on.
Part of me died the day that she died. That's the plain and simple truth.
There's never going to be a day or a moment that I don't want her here.
The loss of a child is a loss that you never get over. This will be with me for the rest of my life. It will be with her mother and her brothers and her sister and her stepmother. I mean, all of her friends. Nothing in our lives will ever be the same.